Okay, so game 2 between XYFusion and CaesarBlack just loading in. Here we are on Abyssal Reef, and yeah, XYFusion, the Zerg in the bottom left, and CaesarBlack, the Terran in the top right. What we had in the last game, the first game of this series, was XYFusion just playing a pretty solid, straight up game, and nothing unusual. Got a few lings out early, contained his opponent with those lings, but didn't try and press home an attack or anything like that. Waited until he had enough roaches to kind of be confident, and then chose a good moment, jumped in and managed to do huge amounts of damage to his opponent's army and completely wiped that out. And then it was just a case of marching up the ramp and sealing the deal. CaesarBlack, meanwhile, didn't really showed a bit of inexperience, showed that he's unfamiliar with the tech buildings and all of those types of things. So only built Marines, built, to be fair, a reasonable number of them, but with no upgrades, not even combat shield, and in the end, actually some, well, either unfortunate or poor positioning, however you want to see it, but lost the Marines pretty quickly to the Ling roaches that turned up to fight them. So we will see if he's learned anything. We'll see what he's going to go for. That's an interesting spot for an early command center. Generally you build it here near the mineral patches, but this CC can of course fly, and I like what I'm saying in these early stages. That's a quick expand. So after the last game where you sat home and didn't really do much, I really like mixing it up in game 2 and just kind of doing something that your opponent's not going to expect. Has got enough money, so I'd like to see Marines in production. You would expect an Overlord to turn up sometime about now to have a look around your base. As it is, XYFusion hasn't actually sent any Overlords out, but that's not the point. You're playing against Sir, you should expect them. And really, XYFusion, you should have sent them out. So these lings are marching across the map. It looked, did I just see that there was indeed an orbital command production? There was, so straight away that's an improvement compared to what we're used to seeing from CaesarBlack. It's almost like he's got somebody giving him some tips or something, who knows. So ling speed in production for the Zerg. Now if these lings can kill the Marine, then they could take out this worker, and the worker manages to get the CC finished, so that's a bit of a result. The Marine, if microed, can certainly kill these two Zerglings. Needs to shoot the weakened one first. Unfortunately isn't shooting the weakened one first, so is going to die and leave behind one Zergling, sorry, that is on 7 health. That's a little bit of a shame. So this third Marine will seal the deal though. Speed not yet, if he shoots it, that is. Speed not yet finished for these Zerglings, so Marines should trade pretty well against them. The worker coming down now for the Expo here, and if you're XYFusion, a planetary, that is actually a very nice ploy indeed. I like what I'm seeing from CaesarBlack. This unusual positioning way far forward means that your SCVs are going to have a very long walk to get to the minerals. That's true, but if that's a planetary fortress, it defends both of these access points. Now, needs to pull the workers and surround these lings and finish them off. He, in the end, does lose a couple, and that's a shame, but nothing too damaging, I don't think. These players don't tend to sort of live on a knife edge economy where they're spending money as they make it. So the buffer in the bank is pretty good. Yeah, as I was saying, this planetary, planetaries deal vicious amounts of damage. They're savage things. The cannon on top does splash damage. I can't remember how much damage it does per shot. It's a large amount of damage. It's so certainly things like lings, it's one-shotting and it does splash. In addition to that, look how much health this planetary's got. It's actually exactly the same as a normal command center, but what it does have is armor. It's got loads of armor, so it is a very tough thing to kill if you've got SCVs repairing it. It does massive amounts of damage. So the position of this is actually beautiful because it's going to shoot at anything that comes through here. It's going to shoot at anything that comes through here. And defensively, that's not such a bad plan. You know, as a Terran, I've seen games where I've used planetaries literally just as a defensive object. You know, literally just slap a planetary here and use it to build SCVs, but you know, also have a base here. Because they take such a beating, they're so hard to kill, and they deal so much damage. You know, it's way more effective than a bunker. And if you think a bunker is going to cost you, how much does a bunker cost? 100 minerals, plus you've got to put 4 marines in it. So the 4 marines cost you 200. You know, you're paying 300 for a bunker, but this is easily worth 2 bunkers, and costs about the same. So, and actually, in a lot of ways, it's better. The only thing that it doesn't do is it doesn't shoot up. But anyway. Yes. Meanwhile, XYFusion, what's he got? He's got some roaches, he's got some ravagers. Ravagers, fantastic units really in the early game. Very, very effective against Terran because you know Terrans are a race that like to wall in. They like to have their kind of line of buildings protecting their ramp, and actually those Ravagers with the corrosive bile can knock down buildings pretty effectively. The lair is done, but I don't see roach upgrades happening. You know, ling speed is done, but really, if you're going to build roaches, you know, even if you're only going to have a few roaches, roach speed is definitely a worthwhile upgrade. For reasons I'm not sure of, I'm not getting like the hover tips when I hover over things, but anyway. Maybe that's a setting. Scan from CaesarBlack doesn't reveal very much. Does CaesarBlack actually, does he see the roach worm? Didn't with that scan, so the scan not that well placed. You know, very common for Zergs to build buildings out the back of their mineral line. It's a pretty normal thing. There are good reasons for that. You build them there for a few different reasons. If your opponent is going to build Reapers, it prevents the Reaper running about the back. It limits the places that Marines can land in a drop, but you do have to be careful, you know, because a Marine drop here means that your units can't get in from either side. So you know, you can use that building placement behind the mineral line to prevent certain avenues of attack from your opponent. But in general, if that's what you are doing, you need to also think about, well, what if they fly in and land here? Right, we're about to see how good this planetary is. So just lays waste to the first units that come up here, and the DPS from the Marines adding in as well. I mean, that is just seen off very, very handily indeed. And you know, the unit skill tab just tells that story, doesn't it? That was absolutely deflected. That was pushed aside with ease. Now, interestingly, roach speed just finished. I'm not really sure why you would have attacked when roach speed only had sort of 10 or 15 seconds to go. These roaches potentially still rallied and just aren't going to die for free. Factory is finished up. We've got several racks. We've got a tech lab this time. Combat shield is done. We've got the engineering bay researching. It has done +1, and it is. Oh, has it done +1? Maybe not. Yeah, it has. +1 is done. Combat shield is done. Armor is researching. So, you know, CaesarBlack is playing almost like a different person in this game. These overlords, my suspicion is, are mis-rallied. I think it's likely that XYFusion had, you know, clicked to set the rally point for these hatches on the other side of the map, and that's why this stuff is making its way across there. Those 3 roaches that walked to their death, and these 3 overlords. But who knows? No big deal. Yeah, let's look at what's going on. In the income tab, you can see that it's not crazily biased. The Zerg is doing slightly better off. The weird positioning of this, if the SCVs get you know, much further to go, means that the normal complement of 16 SCVs will not be enough to optimally mine these patches, whereas this is you know, mining much more quickly. So that's the reason for the imbalance. If CaesarBlack was using mules, and if he had his men saturated, look, 6 in gas there, you know, that's a mistake. I'm not sure what's gone on there. A couple of mules would redress that balance. The gas difference also in favor of the Zerg, despite these 7 workers in gas here, and that's due to the 3 workers mining gas at the expo. A couple idle there as well. So the Overlord decides, what am I doing here? What am I doing with my life? My mates are dead. Let's go home. That noise that we were just hearing means that there are mutas. Where are you, mutas? Oh, was it just the spire finishing up? Was the noise of the spire finishing up? Mutas being built now, so 5 mutas is enough to be very, very effective against this. You know, these Marines that are walking out the front can clean this up, and beautiful timing, because the Ravagers in cocoons are going to get shot for free. But it also means that if these mutas pop out, they can fly in here and kill stuff for free. They can fly in here and kill stuff for free. You know, they could even reduce the number of workers mining gas here to 3. No defenses, essentially, no defenses against mutalism at all. The factory has been done for a while, but I haven't seen anything come out from it. So, you know, if the purpose of the factory was just to get up to Starport, it's ugly, isn't it? It's ugly. Well, then why build a tech lab on it? Finally, we do see a tank coming out of that factory. A tank is, you know, it's pretty good. Tanks are generally good units. They're excellent defensively. They're, you know, if you use them well, they're excellent offensively as well. So yeah, I like tanks. But yeah, I'd like even more information. I'd like CaesarBlack to be scanning this area, to be scouting this area, to be sending workers out, Marines out. I'd like him to be out on the map. You know, so while his build is much improved in terms of there's a variety of tech, there's upgrades happening, there aren't any Marines building, admittedly, but you know, by and large much improved, but he really needs to get out on the map. And to be fair, you know, the same largely can be said for XYFusion. His overlords are mostly at home. He doesn't really know whether his opponent's got a base here, whether his opponent's got a base here. You know, map control is an important thing. It's generally a pretty good idea to be out and about on the map, whether that's with overlords, whether that's just by having the occasional Zergling just scouting about on patrol backward and forward, checking the expands. You know, from a Zerg point of view, burrow is fantastic for that. You can burrow a Zergling here, and that can be really annoying because someone sends a worker to build a command center Nexus hatch here. They can't because of the burrowed ling, and actually from their point of view, you know, they just get that weird ding noise from the SCV that says, no, I can't build here, or the probe, sorry, that says, no, I can't build here. But it doesn't kind of show up on your minimap because the Zergling's burrowed. So you have to get detection over there to clean it up, and you can be really annoying just for the sake of one lane. And it also gives you that information that your opponent is trying to expand. So burrow is being done for the Zerg. There's a lot of roaches being built, 10 roaches in production. There's an Ultralisk cavern, which is very interesting indeed. Ultralisks are absolutely rude against Marines. You know, one Ultralisk could probably walk up here, and before these tanks and planetary and Marines would kill it, would still manage to slay, I don't know, maybe 300 or 400 Marines. I may be exaggerating a little, but Ultralisks, just they do slay Marines pretty handily. So XYFusion, you've got this expo over here, but with all the money you've got in the bank, and given that you know that your opponent isn't on the map, you know, why not here and here and I don't know where else, maybe here. Just I'd be throwing hatcheries down all over the map, to be honest. I would just be going ham. Just like, why not? What have you got to lose? Anywho, a lot of Benlings on the map. Is Benling speed done? Did I see Benling speed be researched? I don't think I've seen it pop up in the production tab. No, I haven't. And Benlings are quite a lot more effective with speed. These siege tanks just hanging, you know, might be better off sieged up. But no matter, not sure about this arrangement of stuff here. I want to see it doing something. You know, it's a good amount of stuff. Oh, just like what is going on? Just as I say it, Marines get loaded into a medevac, and hopefully we're going to see, well, hopefully we're going to see two medevacs head across the map and try and get something done. The Liberator here as well is very useful. So, you know, these narrow chokes can just totally be controlled by siege tanks and Liberators. You know, imagine trying to walk up here with 4 siege tanks sieged up on a liberation zone. The amount of damage you would take on the way in would literally be horrendous. You would just get smashed. You'd need so much in terms of numbers to actually be able to break that. It would be incredibly inefficient. So 5 Mutalisks coming in. Let's see what they can get done here. Certainly they're going to get a few worker kills before they get cleaned up. And these workers are just continuing to mine and walk over into the path of these Mutalisks, which seems a little bit sloppy. The Liberators are going to come forward and have a go at them, and that's just going to chase them off. Oh, don't really careless to lose those Mutas like that. You should have seen the Marines and ran. These medevacs, they didn't actually drop anything. They're just, I don't know about parading them above your opponent's army. I mean, by all means use them for a bit of scouting, but you know, don't make it too obvious that you're there. Doesn't want to take too much damage on that medevac, you know, not with the Marines in it. A snipe on, oh no, don't lose the medevac, no. So this Ultralisk that has popped out at a fairly fortunate timing, it has to be said, has meant that drop doesn't really achieve anything. And XYFusion a little bit lucky with the timing of that Ultra appearing. I've still got the income tab up. That's sorry about that, folks. Yeah, a little bit lucky, you know, because that Ultra, had that not been there and it was only a couple of Queens, the Marines could have done a lot. But CaesarBlack, what you need to do is drop the Marine, get the Marines out of the medevacs first, and then run in with medevac support. That way, the AI from the Queens will be targeting Marines because the AI will target what's shooting it. So unless XYFusion actually clicks on the Marines and specifically targets the medevacs, the Queens will be shooting Marines, and with medevac support, the Marines will be just fine to gun down those Queens, and then you can start either going to work on the workers, or you can kill the Ultra Cavern or the Spire or whatever. Look, Ultra Caverns have actually got a mouth. Look at this. Isn't that absolutely rank? Look at that for a thing. Yeah, fierce looking, isn't it? Fierce. Anyway, supply blocked much. So 7 overlords coming out at once there. What's going on in this game? It seems to have stagnated a bit. You know, both players not too keen on attacking. The Zerg army is literally terrifying. I mean, that's so many Ben lanes. Yeah, so many Ben lanes. Anybody that's been a fan of Scraft for a little bit longer watching this will recognize that phrase. Anywho, these 3 corruptors don't know what they were doing there. Maybe they were just a mistake. Maybe he's planning some sort of Broodlord transition. But these Ultras, you know, can deal a huge amount of damage. The tanks aren't sieged up, and really they're going to need to be. This is a horrible choke, but the Ben lanes can just roll without the siege. Oh no, don't go down the ramp. No, don't do that. Don't walk down the ramp against Ben lanes. Oh no, it's going to be horrible. Oh no, I'm down the ramp again. Just, you know, pull back to where it's nice and safe. Force the Zerg to come through the choke. Don't walk down the choke yourself. That you've got units that aren't shooting because of where you've chosen to engage. That's not nice. These Liberators not in liberation mode, not doing so well. Luckily, this planetary fortress is doling out damage, and actually, the Zerg loses pretty much the whole lot. You can see that the army supply is still quite high, but I suspect that is the stuff that's in production rather than actual army on the map. In fact, well, it is stuff that's in production rather than army on the map, because there isn't anything on the map apart from this, these two corruptors. So in the production tab, 4 Marines are building for the Terran, 5 Ultralisks for the Zerg. If I had to choose, I'll take 5 Ultralisks every day of the week. Could do with repairing these tanks, and could do with just regrouping a little bit and thinking about where he's going to go from here. The bank is large for both players, and it's worth bearing in mind that Zergs can, in general, resupply way quicker than any other race. So I think we could be in trouble shortly. The supply looks pretty even at present, and in fact Terran is in the lead. 52 to 50 and 44 to 35. So yeah, that seems encouraging, but there isn't really, this is the only mining base. These mineral patches are going to be starting to run light before too long. Yeah. And what are we building? Still Marines. What sort of upgrades have we got? We've got 2-2. These have not actually got any upgrades and hasn't researched Kindness Plane. So these ultras aren't anywhere close to as rough and tough as they could be. Kindness Plane is mean. It adds an extra 2 armor. So if you've got armor upgrades on these, you can get these up to, is it +5? Is it +5 or +7 or something? I don't know. I can't even remember anymore. It's such a retarded amount of armor that it gets to the point where an unupgraded Marine literally doesn't do any damage to them. So yeah, luckily he does have upgrades in the Marine, so they can shoot those down, but in a head-to-head fight it would be pretty. It wouldn't be pretty. So CaesarBlack moving out, and look at this production tab for the Zerg. Really worryingly not building units, and I don't get it. You've got 3 grand in the bank, you've got bases about the place, you've got larvae ready to go, you've got production structures. Build stuff, build like Flynn. Roaches, I don't know about that. You've got ultras. Why would you bother with roaches when you've got Ultralisk Cavern ready to go? So I think I'd be more inclined to continue to build ultras. Or maybe he didn't have the gas for it, which is fair enough. He's got enough corruptors to sort of take out medevacts, take out liberators. There's a siege tank in here, doesn't need to be, so needs to get sieged up if he intends to fight here. I noticed that the liberators, we do have a single liberation zone. Perhaps I'd like to see more of a spread. I'm not sure where he's going from here. He needs to, probably isn't aware of where his opponent's expos are, so just checking that now. Sees that there isn't an expand here, so you might want to reposition this army. Possibly find out if there's an expo here, but with Zerg you kind of know because the creep spreads out. So no expos down on this side of them. Whoopsie, no expos down over here, but these surely see the creep, so he knows that there's an expand there. So why not reproduce your units, reposition your units? What's happening to the way I talk? Somewhere over there, and do useful stuff with them. This liberator is going to die to not much really. But at least they haven't died completely in vain. He knows what his opponent's got. This is going to be a massacre. These tanks aren't even sieged up. This Zerg army is... Oh, don't move. This Zerg army is just going to walk through this, and it's not going to be very nice. This is going to cost the Zerg roughly 1 ultra or something like that. So now the army supplies surely look pretty imbalanced, and they do. A couple of liberators getting caught out of position. All of this stuff might be on a miss rally, but I don't think it can survive against this much army. I think it's just going to die. So CaesarBlack really needs to pull this stuff home, really needs to stop rallying across the map, because piecemeal he can't possibly hope to beat this. These ultras are remarkably low though, and there's no queen support here, so they don't heal fantastically quickly or anything, Ultras. They're incredibly tough. They've got more health than most buildings. But this planetary can probably gun these two down pretty quickly, and it does. I think the Corruptors will probably go to work on the planetary, so CaesarBlack needs to start repairing this planetary, and the Corruptors are indeed doing the whole spitting thing where they let rip with some sort of rancid bile, and the effect of that sort of increases with time, so just one Corruptor isn't going to be quite enough, but if all of the Corruptors were working on it, maybe you could get the planetary, and that would change things. As it stands though, okay, a lot of SCVs not repairing, so I think the planetary is going to be just fine, and that's kind of a planetary fortress, a building with 12 kills you don't often see. So army supplies reset to an extent. You can see that the Zerg, again, most of that supply is actually currently in production. It's in Ultras, Roaches, Corruptors. The planetary fortress has been worth its weight in gold. It's kept this game alive on several occasions. But XYFusion, you need to start thinking, look, walking up this ramp doesn't seem to be working for me. You've got a hive, you've got Corruptors, why not just Broodlord it and fly in round the back and flatten your opponent? CaesarBlack, meanwhile, building Marines still. A tech transition wouldn't be a crazy plan. You can build Thors, and Thors fare extremely well. They're very, very tough. They do a lot of damage. Yeah, but now that this is getting close to mined out, the income isn't looking too healthy for our Terran player. I say that. Of course, he's got all this going on. Seriously, what is wrong with me? Tell you what, though, the income's not looking too healthy for the Zerg, and gas for neither player. So finally, a sort of double expo comes down for the Zerg. I think in terms of army supply, the Zerg is far enough in front. They can just march across the map and win, but they have to choose the engagement a little bit carefully. This ramp is hard to get up. It would help if you killed the rocks, because that gives you more room, less of a funnel to walk through against sort of siege tanks and a planetary dealing out splash damage. We have got a Broodlord up now, so let's have a look at the units tab. There's one Broodlord. I'd like to see a few more of those there. 4 Ultras. There's stuff to be had. CaesarBlack now expanding as well. Yeah, but production appears to have stopped. Still no stim pack. So that's a shame. There's no further upgrades happening. There's no gas being mined here. So, yeah, these are standard things that you've just got to be doing. You've got to be mining gas, you've got to be getting your upgrades, you've got to be getting stim pack. These things, you can't expect to win a game of StarCraft without getting those basics in order. And the other trick is to continue, throughout the game to have an eye on those basics. Don't let them slip. Don't just kind of do it at the start of the game and then let it slide. You've got to continue. The good players are the ones that even into the late game are still building things, are still upgrading, are still looking at ways to stretch their opponent, and that's something that neither of these players has done a lot of. Neither player has been very active. Mostly been build an army, park it out the front. XYFusion has ventured across the map a couple of times. CaesarBlack has ventured across the map once, but there hasn't really been any skirmishing, there hasn't been any drop play, there hasn't been any trying to sneak in round the back, pull your opponent out of position, trying to get some damage done or anything like that. It's been a very static game of StarCraft. So, in the army supply tab, the Zerg now has twice the army supply of the Terran. Let's look at the units lost. I think that'll be interesting. You can see that the units lost tab, Zerg has actually lost significantly more in resources than the Terran, and that, that's kind of just indicative of trying to push into this well defended position a few times. Let's check the upgrades. Still no upgrades for these Ultralisks, and in fact I don't believe there is evolution chamber anywhere on the map for the Zerg, and 30 minutes in with all that money that you've mined, hard to find excuses for no upgrades at the 30-minute mark. So who is going to make the first move? I find myself, to be honest here, reaching for the fast forward button because nobody appears to be doing anything. Uh-oh. What does that button do? Nothing. Uh-oh. Yeah. Okay. So, with that said, oh, maybe not. They're pressing some buttons, but kindness plating finally being researched, and evolution chamber finally coming down for XYFusion. So we're eventually going to see some upgrades in the end. These bases, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, lots and lots of hatcheries. So you can saturate these in a single round. You can select all your hatcheries, hold down the S button, hold down the D button, and even if you haven't done any queen spitting, that's enough workers in a single sort of crop to saturate a base. So I'd like to see these being mined. I'd like to see upgrades being churned out 3 at a time for XYFusion, because with that sort of income off that many bases, you should be able to do that. So 3 Evo chambers and just bam bam bam, all 3 of those at once please. And then on to the next one. I'd like to see units being built, and I don't see units being built. You've got lots of spare supply. Roaches at this stage of the game, I don't see the point in them. I think essentially roaches at this stage are pretty expendable, pretty pointless really. Once you're up to tier 3 units, why would you revert to tier 2 units? They're not as good. So you've got the money to do it, you've got the production to do it. Build the big stuff. Okay, finally we are going to see some action. Not sure where the corruptors are going to. Where did the single broodlord go? We don't even know. There's now a planetary here as well. There's some siege tanks, but to be honest, I think the Zerg has enough to cut through it. Kindness plating is finished, so these ultras are now completely and utterly savage. Production, however, seems to have stopped. There's a handful of marines being built for the Terran. I don't think it's going to matter. Now we're up to 4 broodlords. There's only these few liberators in the sky for the Terran player, so I think you've definitely got enough corruptors to deal with those. So these broodlords should be reasonably indestructible unless the marines can get underneath them. They're going to be able to empty this mineral line pretty quickly, and should be able to deal with that. And actually CaesarBlack's own siege tanks are going to do the job for them, because the splash damage is brutal. And the corruptors do need to go to work on these liberators, otherwise he will lose the broodlords. Nom 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 nom. I don't know that those marines were actually attacking, were they? It looked to me like those marines just were on a move command and actually just tried to walk casually past a whole bunch of ultras and roaches, and it didn't really work. So supply plummeting for CaesarBlack, remaining relatively stable for relatively stable, stop that, relatively stable for the Zerg player, and this game is over. It's GG, isn't it? So this is all over but the dancing. The corruptors are finally going to get rid of that planetary. The planetary goes down with 28 kills, and it's over, isn't it? It's over at long last. This planetary can probably survive for another handful of kills, but the Zerg army just, the supply says everything. 119 supply to 17 supply is GG. And there it is. Right, well played all. Catch you later.